Manifesting is basically the idea of having to be delusional until you prove yourself. And so like sometimes when you're manifesting, it's like, is this really gonna happen? Like, am I really gonna get this MacBook? Am I really gonna earn $10,000 this month? And it's almost like, yeah, right? You're almost like being delusional about it. Like, come on, that can't happen. How's that possible? But that's the point. You've got to enter the state of like delusion where it's like, yeah, of course I can have that. And so one of the things I do is when I write about it, I write that I already have this. It's like, I'm so happy and grateful now that I have this MacBook. And by writing it clearly and from the place of the goal, I'm actually lifting myself in the vibration.
Welcome to the Seeds of Consciousness podcast. I am here with my first returning guest, my dear friend, Gazel Amin. So today, Gazel and I are going to be talking about manifestation and how to truly make your dreams a reality. So Gazel, I'm going to give you the floor. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you use manifestation in your life.
Awesome. Thanks for having me back, Kat. The first time we did our first episode together was a long time ago, and you were in a totally different space, different province, and you've come such a long way. So congrats on manifesting this for yourself. And thanks for bringing me back to the show. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm excited to hear about your stories and share some of mine as well. I'll introduce myself so people know who the heck I am and what I'm here to chat about today. My name is Gazel. I go by Gazi. I'm a passion coach. So I work with professionals who are unhappy in their 9-to-5 jobs, and I help them find a job that really inspires them so that they can wake up every morning feeling charged and ready to go for work. And a large part of that is getting clear on what you really want and how you can make that come to reality, which has a lot to do with manifestation. So it's a perfect topic for us to be talking about today.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I definitely look up to you. You are one of my mentors in life. Like, you're really killing it. So I knew that I needed to bring you on and hear your wisdom. So I want to start off by asking you, like, what are the things that you have manifested in your life successfully, and what are you currently trying to manifest?
Ooh, good one, good one. What have I manifested? Well, first off, my entire business. Before this started, I mean, I'm fresh into the coaching business. It's been almost 1 year, not even yet. I started my coaching business at the beginning of COVID, and it was all something that started in my mind. And now when I look around, I mean, doing this interview, it's become a reality for me. So that's one main thing I've manifested, the ability to hold a vision really, really clearly in my mind and then bring it to life. And you said, what have you manifested? A really good thing that I manifested, actually, I'm on Zoom on my new MacBook today. I just got myself a beautiful MacBook that I actually manifested within 5 days.
Wait,
and I'm not kidding you, Kat. So I needed a laptop. I had like the shittiest laptop, like a ThinkPad, the ones where it needed the charger in at all times or else it wouldn't work, like really, really old one. I was like, you know what? I need a nice laptop. Like, now that I'm doing all of these Zoom calls and I'm connecting with students and clients from all across the world, like, I want to have something that makes me look my best, sound my best, feel my best. And I knew I wanted a new computer. So I had my eye on a MacBook. And I started getting really clear about it. I'm like, I really, 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 really want this MacBook.
Okay.
And this is my journal. Okay. On December 16th, I wrote in my journal. It's right here for proof. I write in my journal, I'm so happy and grateful now that I have my new MacBook 2020. It's freaking beautiful. It's the MacBook Pro with the touch bar. It's Retina display, and it's just so beautiful. I trust that it's on its way to me. So I write that on December 16th, okay?
Yeah.
And on December 16th, when I wrote that, I really felt it. Like, I was like, oh, I really want it. I really want it. And so I write it. And on December 21st, somehow I receive a magical gift of income, an additional $2,500 that came out of nowhere for me.
Wow.
I was not expecting the money. In fact, I was not counting on it, had no idea it was on its way. And somebody that I met earlier that day had just sent me $2,500 as a check.
Wait, what? Like a new client?
An old client thanking me for some work that I'd done.
Wow, work that you already got compensated.
Work that I've already been paid for, already done. But the token of their appreciation, the client wanted to gift me an additional $2,500. And taken the MacBook that I was looking at, it was $2,300. So the $2,500 was like, oh my God, this is for the MacBook. And that was December 21.
Yeah.
So 16 to 21, just 5 days. It blew me away. Like I was like, did I really do this? Is it really happening? Is this money mine? Was this an accident? Like really doubting it at first, but then accepted, like, Gaz, you freaking manifested this. This showed up for you perfectly. So I took the sign right away. I got home. I literally went straight to apple.com, ordered it. Within 3 hours, my curbside pickup was ready and the MacBook is now in my hands. So that's one story. Like, what if you just manifested? Literally 5 days, new MacBook 2020. It's awesome. It's incredible.
That is really impressive. Like I've manifested things quickly, like in 18 days, but like 5 days.
It even blew me away. Like I was like, whoa, did I just do this? And it's like, yeah, I did just do this. Nice, Gaz. Nice.
Wow. Oh my God. That is amazing. Huh.
The question is how? How did it happen?
Yeah, I have a feeling that journaling has a lot to do with that. So that's one of the main things that I want to discuss with you. Like how do you practically go about manifesting things? Can you break down your process?
Yeah. It's simple. There's a couple steps in the process, and it works every time. Doesn't matter what you're manifesting, or how or when it's going to come. There's a couple steps and a couple feelings that you have to feel when manifesting that makes it kind of manifest every single time. And I think the first thing, if I were to put it in a step, the first thing is getting very, very clear. What is it that you want? So I didn't just say, oh, I wanted a new laptop.
Yeah.
I said I wanted the MacBook 2020.
Yes.
I wanted the 13-inch with the specific touch bar. Like there was detail to what I wanted. So that's the first thing. If you want to manifest something, it can't just be a general thing. It needs to be specific. Like a common thing that I hear when talking to my clients is like, okay, what do you want? And they say more money. It's like, okay, that's not clear enough. Like if I give you 25 cents, is that enough for you? Because you asked for more money.
Yeah.
25 cents is technically more money. But what we're missing out here is the detail of how much and when do you want it. So when I wrote out, yeah, journaling was a big part of it, but it's actually how I wrote it out. Getting very, very clear on what it is you want. And the second step, this was funny. I actually saw it on Twitter. Can't remember like who had posted it, but I saw something on Twitter and it was like, manifesting is basically the idea of having to be delusional until you prove yourself. And so like sometimes when you're manifesting, it's like, is this really going to happen? Like, am I really going to get this MacBook? Am I really going to earn $10,000 this month? And it's almost like, yeah, right. You're almost like being delusional about it. Like, come on, that can't happen. How's that possible? But that's the point. You've got to enter the state of like delusion where it's like, yeah, of course I can have that. And so one of the things I do is when I write about it, I write that I already have this. It's like, I'm so happy and grateful now that I have this MacBook. And by writing it clearly and from the place of the goal, I'm actually lifting myself in the vibration. So for example, let me clear it out. If we were to write, I can't wait to get a MacBook, it's coming from an energy level of like desperation and need.
Yes.
Whereas if I'm writing from a place of having it, it's coming from a place of like abundance and higher level of frequency. And trust, exactly. And that it's already there. It's already happening. So at first, when I started journaling and manifesting, trust me, it felt weird. Like
Uh-huh.
writing, like before I had my business, I'd write about having this business and it felt crazy. I had no clients, was making $0 from this business, writing like so happy that like hundreds of people are DMing me every day and like so many, it was
Meanwhile,
delusional.
your inbox is empty.
Right. And it's like I got zero. I've had like 10 followers at the time.
Yeah.
But it was the idea of writing from the place of the goal as if I already had it
Mhm.
that lifts you in the energy of the goal. So step one would be getting clear on what it is,
Mhm.
very, very clear. And the more detailed, the better. And then step two is writing about it from the place of the goal as if you already have it.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize here that that's key, you know, like by writing in the present, you're allowing that to manifest right now.
And they say it with manifestation, if you can visually see it,
Mhm.
that's how it's going to come in the hand. So we first see things in the mind
Mhm.
before it comes into reality. So if you can't even see it in the mind, you're
Mhm.
so far away from the goal.
Mhm.
That's why we want to start seeing it. Like, what
Mhm.
would the MacBook look like? What
Mhm.
would it feel like using the MacBook? How happy would I be when I'm unboxing the box from Apple? Like, what would that sensation feel like for me? By
Mhm.
doing that, I'm really getting on the energy of that goal and seeing it really clearly. If you can't see the goal, you can't manifest it. And that's really, really important. So, like something that I'm practicing, one of my top goals, my like ultimate manifestation goal is to have a beach house in Costa Rica. And
Yeah,
I know we're both fans of Pura Vida and like being near the water and the jungle,
absolutely, girl.
right? And for a really long time, that goal felt really far away for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
But now as I write about it, like I write about what the wind feels like and what the howler monkeys sound like and what the temperature feels like on my skin. And so what I'm doing there is bringing the vision really clearly in my mind so that it's even closer into my hands. But if I have no idea, I'm just like, oh, I just want this. Then I
Mhm.
don't really know what I want. So that clarity, that detail, and then writing it out is really, really crucial to being able to manifest what we really desire.
Absolutely. Visualization is key, but also the writing. Like I
Absolutely.
definitely agree with the fact that writing is the first step to manifest things from the abstract into the reality. You are physically putting that idea, that energy out into reality. And
Yeah,
then the next step
absolutely.
is for it to materialize off of the paper, right?
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything that you're either working on or have worked on to be able to manifest for yourself? I'd be curious to hear about it.
Absolutely. Well, like the most impressive thing that I've manifested in like the last year is the life that I'm living right now. You know, like a year ago today, I was living at home in Southern Ontario, where we're from, and I was just obsessed with being like doing the van life thing. You know, so I spent like a year really hustling, and it's interesting that you say it's like every single detail that I thought about in the kind of van that I wanted, I got. Like at
Yeah.
that time, I didn't really write things down on paper, but I was repeating it in my head a lot. And it's interesting to note how, even though I got everything that I desired, the things that I didn't really get clear on, I didn't get, which is okay. I still love my van, but you know, now looking back on it, I would have wanted to get even more clear, being like, you know, like I would like a van with a higher clearance so I can like get to more rugged terrain. Maybe I should have gotten something with 4x4, you know, but back then that wasn't in my conception. Like it's still
Yeah.
exactly what I need, but it's interesting to know. It's like you get exactly what you want, but if you're not specific enough, those
Yeah.
things perhaps they will still manifest, but it's not given, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Wow, that's really neat, right? The more detailed you get, the
mhm.
more clear the result ends up being, right?
And you just got
Really nice.
you got to trust it. You do.
Oh, that's a huge component of it. We get what we ask, but we also get how we feel about what we ask. So this is, I think, the difference. A lot of times I hear people saying like, "Oh, well, I'll write in my journal, but nothing happens." Like, you really think writing in my journal is going to make me earn
Mhm.
10K a month?
Mhm.
And I think the key difference that I'm starting to learn
Mhm.
is not it's not really what you write,
Mhm.
it's the emotion and the connection you have to what you're writing about.
Yeah.
And you have to get obsessed with it. Like you have to really, really want it. And so, like, if I were to just write, oh, I can't wait to have a house in Costa Rica and
Mhm.
just left it like that, the feeling is just static. But when I'm writing about that dream house in Costa Rica, I'm getting emotionally obsessed with the idea. Like I'm
Mhm.
writing about the colors and I'm feeling it. And sometimes I'll even notice myself like get easy in the shoulders. I have a smile when I'm writing. I get this like tingly sensation in my belly. That's what we're looking for. And if it's something that you really, really want, you should feel that way. And if you
Absolutely.
don't feel that way about what you're writing about, then you should probably find something that you really, really do want. For example, when you wanted the van, every part of your being was like, I need this van. I want this van. I can't wait to wake up in the van. If you were just like meh about it,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have come up for you. Maybe it would have, but not as quickly as it did,
Yeah.
not as transformative as it was. So like the key really that I'm like noticing even for myself is the more emotionally involved I get with the
Mhm.
goal, the more connected I feel to it and like detailed and obsessed. That's kind of the key ingredient that makes it grow faster for us.
And in terms of emotional involvement, I think an important factor to understand is like you have to you have to convince yourself that you actually deserve it. You have to truly be able to accept and receive it. You know, some people are like, I would like to have more money or I would like to be in a relationship and stuff like that. But maybe part of them feels like they're undeserving or they need to work on themselves first in order to be able to receive that. But all that does is delay it because what you're
Yeah.
putting out into the universe is that you're not ready. You know, you have this desire, but you're unable to receive it.
Yes. Yeah. That's totally true. I could feel that for myself too. There's a lot of thoughts that come up sometimes even when I'm manifesting like
Mm,
why should you get this? Why should we
mm,
give you a house in Costa
mm,
Rica? Like why do you want all of this money? Why do you want these goals?
mm.
And because I'm deserving. But that didn't come like I couldn't just say I actually had to do work on that.
Yeah,
It took me a long time to rewire my beliefs
yeah,
to understand that oh yeah, I'm friggin' worthy of this.
yeah,
And I should receive it and I'm open to receiving it because if I receive I could give more. So
exactly.
before I used to see this idea of like receiving more money as almost like
Greedy.
greedy.
Yeah,
Like, why should I get $10,000? Why?
yeah,
And now I'm like, well, because I'm worthy of it. And I believe that I could do great things if I had more money. Whereas before I would see it as like, even if I did write it,
mhm,
first of all, I used to write about wanting $5,000 a month.
mhm.
Now I'm writing about wanting $20,000 a month because I'm just
Girl,
like,
ambitious.
yeah, I'm stretching what I believe is possible for me. And I'm almost playing. Like I'm like, holy shit, if I manifested 5,000, then I manifested 10,000, like
Yeah,
let's see what else I could do, you know? And I believe that I'm worthy, but that didn't come easy
yeah. Can you
because
speak on that work? Like, what is the work that you have to do to get past that doubt and that like almost imposter syndrome?
yeah, yeah. It all starts with beliefs. I mean, we're grown up believing certain things about everything, about ourselves, about money, about literally anything that you could think of, we have a belief around it.
Mhm,
And the unique thing about beliefs are they're not necessarily facts.
mhm,
They're thoughts that are created through repetition that play themselves. So
mhm,
it almost feels like a fact,
mhm,
but it's not really. It's just a belief that's on repeat.
mhm,
So for a really, really long time, I believed that like 8,000 was the max that I could earn. 1 month earned 8,000. I thought that was like the max. Like, okay,
mhm,
that's my belief. Like, that's where I could hit.
mhm,
Then I start to think, well, where did this belief come from?
mhm,
So before I could even rewire the belief, create a new one, I actually had to get clear of like, where did this belief come from? And I mean, with everybody, beliefs are taught to us at a very young age. They happen through our parents, through schools, through media, through institutions. We've been taught these things that create our belief system. And it's pretty eye-opening and refreshing to just question these beliefs. Like, okay, where along my journey did I believe that like 8,000 was the most that I could ever earn? Well, when I grew up, my parents were immigrants when they came to Canada. So we hustled for money. Like my parents came to this country with zero. They hustled. Like no car, no house, didn't even speak English. And so their understanding of money of like, there's not enough of it. We have to work really hard. When we get it, we have to save it. Those ideas started to build and firm my understanding around money. So it was interesting when I started to question it. It's like, well, nobody really ever told me that I couldn't make more than 8,000, but that was just something that I started believing based on my parents' understanding of money.
Mhm.
And that like you should go for the safe, secure job, the one that has benefits and a good salary. And I had all of those things because that's what I was taught was success.
Mhm.
That's what I taught was like the right thing. So when I started to question these beliefs, I realized, oh, I was just taught these beliefs.
Mhm.
But what's amazing about them is that you can change beliefs at any time.
Mhm.
And so I started to, and it's not that easy. It's not like one day you're just like, oh, I'm going to believe something new. It's actually through repetition. Same way how the old belief came in. So the old belief was a thought on repetition.
Mhm.
So if we want a new belief, we have to get a new belief and put that on repetition so that it goes deep into the subconscious mind.
Mhm.
And so with this idea of like, how can you rewire this? I started to think, what do I want to believe about money?
Mhm. Mhm.
I want to believe that money is energy, that money supports me, that money flows to me with ease.
Mhm.
Money comes to me from different sources of income without even me expecting it, like the MacBook. So when I started to believe these things around money, I started to realize there's much more that I can do rather than just believe what everybody else believes. I have the ability to believe what serves me. And I think that's where a lot of us get tripped up is we think that once we have a belief, it's just the way it is.
Mhm.
But it's really empowering to know. And I mean, I see it in so many of the students and clients that I work with that they change their belief. And just by changing a belief, you change the outcome, you change your results. So when I started to believe these new things about money,
Mhm.
like for the longest time, I was a 5K earner. I
Mhm.
just earned 5K on repetition
Mhm.
because I believe that like that was a good salary. That's like stable for me. That will help me make ends meet. So I just always made 5K.
Mhm.
I settled for a job that just gave me 5K every month.
Mhm.
That's what I believed.
Mhm.
Now with my new beliefs, the new beliefs that are money is energy, money flows, there's no limit to what I can earn. And one of the new beliefs I'm working on is the more money I receive, the more good I can do for the universe. The more I receive, the more I put out. The more I receive, the greater impact I can have. So these ideas of money, these beliefs, they're changing my results. I'm actually manifesting more money with ease. It's now coming, it's now flowing. And so really the trick was finding what's the belief?
Mhm.
Is it serving me? And if not, what new belief that I can have? And one of the main ones that you mentioned too was the idea of like not being worthy of it, not being able to receive it. If you don't believe that you're good enough for $8,000, it's not going to come. Even when I wrote I wanted 8K a month,
Yeah.
it kind of felt like I'm not actually worthy of it. I can't do it. And so I was actually resisting receiving.
Mhm.
But then when I changed the belief that like I'm open to receiving, now I'm actually demonstrating and sharing the energy that I can receive this. I am worthy of receiving it. And it all starts with that small belief. And a lot of times we don't question it. So that's my challenge. Like, challenge your beliefs. Why do you believe this about money? Why do you believe that about yourself?
Mhm.
Where did that belief come from? Like the idea that you're not worthy of the money. Who told you?
Yeah,
When did you first hear it?
exactly. And then after
And if
that,
it's not serving, just swap it out. Put
what
something
do you
you do want to
genuinely want
believe.
to believe? If you're in control of your thoughts and beliefs and what happens in your world, like what do you want? Truly.
Exactly.
So I also have a question for you going off of this. How important is it the intentions behind what you're trying to manifest? Like, can you manifest anything? Like, say you want more money, just because you think that that number is better, like you're coming from like a place of scarcity or like, do you have to have like pure intentions? Do you have to come from a place of service and giving back in order for it to actually materialize?
Matters. But even greater than that is the way I see it is the energy, which is the same thing as intention if you think about it. But the way I see it always is energy. What energy am I going into this with? So if I'm going in with the energy that, okay, let me take it back.
Mhm.
We attract what is on the same energy as us. So if I'm on the energy of like here within scale, like imagine an imaginary scale and I'm here, and this energy level is one that is in abundance, receives money so that I could be of service to people. I could build houses, help schools, feed people. That's why I want more money, to be able to make greater impact in the universe. So if that's the energy that I'm at when I'm writing the goals, I'm going to match what is in harmony with that energy level. So, what is here on the goal? That's what I'm going to attract. I usually try and see it as a visual scale for myself. Whereas if I'm attracting money because I want to keep it for myself and I want to just get money to hoard it and tell people I'm rich or buy nice cars. Buying nice cars is a good thing. But if you want to buy nice cars just to be like, oh, I have a nice car and you don't,
Yeah.
you're going to match what is at that low level energy.
Yeah.
So like if you know your goal is here, like house in Costa Rica for me, for example, if I know the goal is on this level, then when I write, I try and increase my vibration so that I could get to that level, so that I could match. It's like a dating app, for example. You match, right? Like it's because it's on the same level. You're on the same page, same location wise, 50 meters with the distance within each other, match. So I try and think about it like the intention and the energy that goes behind it. Same thing about being emotionally connected to it. If you want it just for the sake of wanting it,
Yeah.
the energy is not connected. That's not where the goal lives.
Yeah.
The goal lives in high vibration frequency.
It's
That's why we're always trying to lift to that energy of the goal.
it's not about having, it's about appreciating, right? And sharing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing I realized, like, if we're not like manifestation doesn't come from a place of like lack and fear,
Yeah.
it comes from a place of trust and gratitude. So if you're writing and you're saying, I hate my life would be better with money,
Yeah.
that's not going to help you manifest because that's low level vibrancy. Whereas if you change that and you write from a place of gratitude and a place of abundance, and you wrote that so happy and grateful for all the money that's coming to me, and I know that I'm opening my arms to more money because more money equals greater impact. Well, even just like saying that, I could see you smile more. It's a higher level energy. It's welcoming abundance and manifestation. So even the wording and the energy, the intention behind it is going to give you what you're asking for. Low energy writing is going to get you low energy results. High energy writing is going to get you high energy results. So if you know what you want, I think of it kind of like matchmaking. Your goal wants you as bad as you want your goal. It's just waiting for each other to match at the perfect time. So my goal already exists. The house in Costa Rica is already built. It's already there in the jungle. The house is already there. It's just waiting for me to match its vibrancy. And once I'm there, bam, we're going to connect. I'm just not there yet, but it doesn't mean I won't get there. And that's the trust component that we spoke about, right? That it's already there and I trust that I'm going to get there. And I mean, if I didn't get the MacBook in 5 days, I would have still continued until I got it.
Yeah.
Because I trust that it's possible for me.
Yeah.
But there are people who might write for a couple days. I mean, like I wrote about my business, about making money in my business and having followers and a community for months before I had any paying clients, but I didn't give up.
Okay.
Because I was at that level of the goal and I trust, I have faith, and I knew that it's out there. I will just continue to lift and lift and lift until I match my goal. And if I gave up, I would have given up,
Mhm.
but I didn't give up. That persistence always continues.
Mm. Well, this is really good because this kind of segues into my next question, which is, okay, so you get clear with what you want, you get clear with your vibe, you write it out into the world you trust. What is next? Like the space in between, putting out what you want and actually receiving it, like what goes on at that time? Do you just kind of sit around, fiddle your fingers? Like how much do you have to work for it, and what does that necessarily entail?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Part of it is just the wanting it and the trust, but we have to give credit and like shed light on doing the work.
Yeah.
Like if you don't do what is required, you're not ready for it. So let's say you write about it and you really want it. You're still here. The goal's here.
Mhm.
You have to do the work every day to do it. So when I write my goal in the morning, what I feel that it does for me is it sets the tone for the rest of the day. So I have the goal in mind. So I'm writing about the house in Costa Rica. I'm writing about working with my clients. I'm writing about how happy I am that my clients are winning and they're quitting their 9 to 5 jobs. I write about these things. But then when my journal writing is done, I don't just hop off and scroll on Instagram for the rest of the day, hoping that universe is listening to me.
Mhm.
No, I've got to do the work and
Mhm.
I've got to be persistent and dedicated to the work. So what does that mean? It's different for every person depending on what their goal is, but I know exactly what I need to do every single day to
Mhm.
set myself up for success. I
Mhm.
know what that looks like. I know what work needs to be done. And so, for example, if I want to, let's say, get 10K a month next month, what is that going to require? That's going to require that I connect with more people. I get my message out there. I talk about my programs. I introduce myself to new people. I go out and engage in other Facebook communities. I tell my mom's friends about my work. Whatever it entails, per person is different, but you do the work to get there. So for example, one of my things was like doing the work was investing in a coach because I was writing about it, but I'm like, okay, if I'm serious about scaling my business, writing about it is not going to be all of that. I've got to put my actual dedication and my work and get closer to that. So what that entailed, I invested $20,000 in personal development in the last 3 months.
Mhm.
So yeah, part of it is writing, but that writing gets me closer. Then new opportunities show up. Then I like have more energy. I have more desire. So I do the work. So one part of it is like, yeah, in the morning writing the goal, but then what do you do with the rest of the day?
Mhm.
How are you showing up for yourself? How are you honoring your goal? How are you staying focused on the goal? And I feel like that's where some people will either do one or the other, but they actually work when they come together. So someone might just write and just hope that it shows up, and someone's working really, really hard, hustling, but has no idea what they're hustling for.
Mm.
We actually need to bring these two things together, doing the work, but also having a clear goal on what we're working towards. And when you bring those two together, I think that's like the equation. Have the goal in mind, doing the work that's necessary, having trust, faith, and never giving up. And then that's kind of when you start to see the plant grow. And it's unique, much like a flower. When you plant the seed, you can't just plant the seed and then expect for it to grow.
Mhm.
Every day, you got to come back to the flower. You got to give it the necessary water. You might need to look to see where the sunlight is coming from and readjust it. Sometimes you need to talk to it. You might need to kiss it. You might need to ask it what it needs today. So, planting the seed happens when we write the goal, but doing the work of watering the plant each day, that's really fundamental to seeing it come to fruition rather than just waiting and hoping one day this beautiful sunflower will just pop out of nowhere. That's wishful thinking. That's not understanding the laws of the universe and manifesting what you truly desire.
It's good that you made that distinction. Manifestation isn't wishful thinking. Manifestation is the process of getting clear with what you want to attract, what you want to receive, what you want to put out in this world, and then becoming the person through your actions, through your mindset, through the way you carry your being every single day
Yep.
until that person can manifest, can materialize exactly what they truly desire.
Yep.
Thank you
Yep.
for that. I was wondering if you don't mind I would love for you to touch upon your coach and how that happened, because I remember you telling me like that was a huge risk. That was a big investment, $20,000. That's not something that you just have like a disposable income lying around. Like how did that come about? What did that take? And what happened after that?
So I've done a couple investments in
Mhm.
personal development this year. My total, I've done $32,000 just this year in personal
Wow.
development. Yeah, crazy. Since the
Wow.
beginning of COVID. Meanwhile, before this, I had never met a coach, never worked with a coach, didn't know about a coach, knew nothing about it.
Mhm.
And the first time I invested was just under $8,000 for
Mhm.
my first
Mhm.
program. My
Mhm.
second program was near 6,000, and then my final intensive that I
Mhm.
just signed on for in November was
Mhm.
20,000.
Wow.
And you're right, that's not money. That's, by the way, I had none of this money in my bank account before I made the decision.
Really?
So like it wasn't there. I wasn't like, "Oh yeah, for sure I have $7,000." Like that did not happen. That was not the case. And
Yeah.
some people are like, "Oh, well, it's easy when you have money to invest." It wasn't that way. It didn't show up. In fact, the first time, well, every time I had to ask people for money. I'll tell you a funny story. The
Yeah.
first investment in personal development I made was in April,
Mhm.
and I had jumped onto a class
Mhm.
on money mindset.
Mhm.
Okay. And I was just like absorbed by what this coach was saying. Like,
Mhm.
wow, she's speaking facts. This is like really eye opening for me. And it really changed my perspective. And after the session, she just dropped in the Zoom chat, like, hey, if anybody has any questions, here's my cell number.
Mhm.
Quickly write it down. I quickly texted her after, like, hey, thanks for opening my eyes. This was like really life-changing material for me. I feel like in just 90 minutes, my whole life has really changed. I'd love to know how I can learn more, like work with you.
Mhm.
She's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, here's how you could work with me. And it ended up being perfect because she was like, oh yeah, my mentor is Bob Proctor. And she's like, oh yeah, I actually work with Bob. Bob and I got on a private jet together one day. And I was like, oh my God, this is meant to be. I was watching Bob's videos like right before this, and now she's telling me she knows Bob and like I could work with her. I was like, oh my God, is this like working out perfectly for me or what? Anyway, she says the price, which was like close to 8,000. And like I almost choked. Like I was like, holy fuck. I literally had probably just under $2,000 in my bank account. I'm
Wow.
like, oh God, how am I going to pay for this? And she was like, oh, we have payment plans.
Yeah.
It's $1,600 for the first payment.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I have just under 2,000,
Yeah.
1,600. I'll have like $200 back up. I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I quickly called my sister and I was like, okay, before I like commit, she was
Yeah.
like, oh, like, why can't you come in? I was like, well, I don't have money. And she's like, trust me, a lot of people don't have the money when they start, but
Yeah.
this is about the leap of faith.
Uh-huh.
And I had no idea what that meant at the time. I was like, leap of what? Let me just see if I could get this money.
Yeah.
So I called my sister and I'm like, hey, if I needed $5,000 from you next month, could you help me out? And
Yeah.
she's like, this sounds kind of sketchy. And I'm like, it's not sketchy. I promise. It's good stuff. It's for personal development. She's like, is it school? Are you going back to school? Because like, the traditional path of like education and stuff like that. So they thought I was going back to school. I'm like, yeah, something like that. Something like that.
Something like
So she's like, cool. And I'm like, okay, don't tell mom and dad, okay?
that.
Okay, this kind of sounds sketchy. So she's like, yeah, she'll give me the money if I needed it. I
Mhm.
didn't take the money from her at the time. So, anyways, that works out. I pay the $2,000, 1,650, I think it was, and I joined the program.
Yes.
And then I remembered what was leap of faith, like that thing that my coach had said. I remembered that word, leap of faith. And now what I understand leap of faith as is like skydiving. I've been skydiving before. I freaking love it.
Mhm.
And it's like before jumping, you don't open the parachute to make sure it works.
Mhm.
You've got to jump first.
Mhm.
Then, when it's the time, the parachute will open itself to support you.
Mhm. Mhm.
But oftentimes, we're like wanting to make sure that it's going to open before we jump. But that's part of trusting that it's going to work out. Like, listen, you're not the first person who skydived before. There was like 30 other people who did it before you today. Just jump and it'll be okay. So you got to jump. And then when you're in the air, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then when it's the time, it opens and it supports you.
Yeah.
But what I was waiting for was I was going to wait for the money. So I was going to wait for the parachute to open before I jumped. But it doesn't work that way. Got to jump first, then it opens up.
Yeah.
And it worked perfectly for me. I jumped, I took the leap, and I joined the program. I was in it for maybe 3 weeks. I'll actually have to go back and like check the dates, but it was under a month. And I had signed on a client. I was doing digital marketing at the time. That was like on my way to finding my true passion, which is helping others find something they love. And I was doing digital marketing, had a bunch of clients, and out of nowhere, I landed a client. Unexpected, did not see it coming, hadn't done an official pitch, wasn't anything too serious. But the client was just like, yep, we're super interested in working with you. We want to get started. We'll pay in advance. Wow. Here's $7,000. They're like, we'll write the check. And a couple days later, the check comes.
Yeah.
So I messaged my coach, and if you pay in full, you get a little bit of a discount. And it was like 3 weeks after that I'd paid. And remember, I had the payment plans of $1,600 at a time.
Yeah.
So I just like called and I'm like, hey, can I pay in full now? She's like, what? I'm like, if I paid in full, would you give me that little bit of a discount back? She's like, yeah, are you ready to pay in full? I'm like, yeah, I actually just got a check this week for $7,000. And she's like, this is what I meant. This is the parachute that's opening. You took the jump. Now the support is following. Wow. And that for me was like, and it happens every time for me. Then once I saw that evidence, now I don't play in fear anymore. Now I jump. It's easier for me to take the leap of faith because I trust that it's going to work out. So the first time was the hardest for me because it was like 7,000. I had never put 7,000 on my credit card before. I'd never bought or invested anything for that sum of money. Nothing.
That's scary.
So scary. I'd once paid for a trip when I went to Costa Rica, and my Visa card was 5,000. That was the most I'd ever put on my Visa. Yeah. So 7,000 felt like really, really large for me. That was in April.
Yeah.
And then again, in June, I did another $6,000 course. And then in November, when I did the 20,000, it didn't feel as large for me. Like I was like, oh, I've done 7,000 before. 20,000, it doesn't feel that big. And same thing happened. I invested the 20,000 and then money just started to show up. More opportunities, more clients, people asking me how they can work with me. How can I sign up for the program? Like just abundance flowing towards. And I realized if I would have waited before investing, it would have never come to me. Yeah. The secret was jumping, taking that leap of faith and knowing that the support will come when I need it. And once I learned that lesson, now it's like, damn, all I can think about is the skydiving thing. I'm like, Gazel, just jump. It will open when it's ready. It will open when it's ready. And so now I just play with that. I'm like, let me see what I could do. Let me jump and see what sort of support I'll have. So if you're watching this and you're thinking like, oh, I'm waiting for this to happen so I can take that action. You got to act now and then allow for the planning to come after. Most people want to plan first and then act, but it's actually vice versa. You've got to act first, take the leap of faith, and then what you'll notice is the support starts to flow afterwards.
You know, that just kind of reminds me of my own journey with manifestation and what happened with me. So it's interesting because, you know, I could hear some people maybe doubting what you're saying and thinking to themselves, like, what if I fail? You know, like, what if things don't happen the way that I want to, and I take this huge risk and it doesn't work out? Well, I'll give you a little anecdote from like my own journey. It's like, I truly believe it's like, even if you stumble along the way, if it's truly something you genuinely desire and the path that you're meant to go on, things will always work out. Like when I bought my camper van, like that was my first home, my first car, my largest purchase. I told myself that I had a $5,000 budget. That's as much as I could spend. And that included, buying a fully renovated van and plus like whatever mechanical repairs I needed. During the buying process, though, I made a lot of mistakes and I didn't do my due diligence and I rushed the process a bit and it ended up costing me a lot more because I didn't get a mechanical repair. There are certain circumstances that happened that led to that happening. But basically, when I did get it inspected, I realized that it needed a lot more work than I could afford. It needed another $4,500 worth of repairs, and that was really scary to me because I'm like, holy crap, like yeah, I have that extra money, but at the same time, like I would be dipping into my savings for what I want to live off of when I actually move into the van. Like I don't want to spend all my money on the van and then not be able to go anywhere with it, right? So like that was like a huge, I would say, failure for me. And like I really was like terrified, like how is this going to work out and stuff. And luckily, like my parents were there to support me. Like they were very against this whole idea. Like they're very Eastern European traditional. They're like, why do you want to live in a van? Like what the hell? But you know what? They still showed up for me when in the moment that I needed the support. They were like, okay, you made a mistake. We don't want you to do this, but you know what? You're already doing it. So we're going to help you out. And like, that was a huge thing for me. And that just kind of restored faith in the idea that like, if you're meant to do something, it will happen. I think part of the reason why things didn't work out for me was because I didn't trust the process and I rushed it. And that's why I made mistakes. But you know what? Even so, the universe had my back and it still ended up happening. And yeah, it didn't happen the way that I expected. And it costed more. It was harder and a bit more painful. And a lot of that was because I was hard on myself, right? But at the end of the day, I am still exactly where I truly desire to be, and it will work out.
Every time. When you say that, even I think about two things. The first one is like all of the lessons that you learned, even just explaining the story, like along the way, you learned all of these things. So in fact, it wasn't a failure. There were just lessons that you needed to learn along the way. And how I see about trusting the process is kind of how I see ourselves using Google Maps. Like when I sit in my car and I put destination B in my Waze or my Google Maps, I trust that it's going to take me there. I never question it. I'm never like, oh my God, am I sure Google Maps knows the way? I just freaking trust. I'm like, of course, Google knows everything. It knows everything. It's going to take me there. And so I trust and I don't question it. And even when I'm driving, like I suck at directions. Sometimes I get off the wrong exit. What happens is Google doesn't tell me you failed, you got off the wrong exit. It just says reroute. Yeah. And then within seconds, it gives me a new route to take. Still the same destination, just a new journey.
Yeah. It might take longer. It might cost a bit more gas, but you know what? At the end of the day, you still get to where you need to go. And somehow it works out.
It works out. And sometimes along the way, not only like maybe I got off that exit because there's a beautiful trail that I'm going to see along the way and I'm meant to see that. So like, I think of it as like, oh, frig, I messed up. Like I got off the wrong exit, but it's like, no, you were meant to get off here. You're still going to the same spot. The destination, the goal is still there. So as long as you know what you're working towards, a little reroute is not a big deal. Some extra gas, an extra day or two, that's not the biggest of deal. Those are lessons. That's the journey. But it's still trusting that Google is going to take me there. But the difference is when we see it as Google, we're like, oh yeah, we trust that Google will take it. But when it's ourselves, we see it as a failure. We're like, oh, I failed. I took the wrong exit. I should have not taken this exit. And it's like, it's not a failure. I genuinely think the only failure that exists is giving up on ourselves. Everything else is a lesson. Everything else.
Absolutely.
Everything. And I've made mistakes in business. I've lost money. I've done things and then needed to go back and redo them. But I never saw them as like, oh, damn, I failed. I wasted my time doing this. I'm like, great. What did I learn from this experience?
Yeah.
What is this teaching me? What is this offering me here? And so I don't see it as a failure. I'll share a quick story with you actually. At the beginning of my coaching, I had created a guide, and it was called The 3 Simple Steps to Finding and Building Your Dream Career. Here it is. And it took me weeks to create this, okay? Took me weeks to create, and then I invested a lot of money in advertising for this. And it got me great feedback. I spent about $500 into this, okay? After 4 weeks of running it, I realized, frick, this is not it. I need to change the title. It's not doing as good as I would have wanted it to. And so 2 things could have happened during this time. And they did. For a quick second, I'm like, I'm such a friggin' failure. How did I do this wrong? I spent $500 on ads. And basically, I at first saw it as a waste of money.
Because you didn't get a return on investment.
I didn't get a return on it. And I'm like, damn it, I didn't do it right. I should have not done this. Why did I do it this way? Just like bashing myself, thinking I was a failure and I did something wrong. Then I'm like, hey, what if everything is a lesson? So I took the lesson. I redid the entire thing. Took me another 3 weeks. Redid the whole thing. Rounds of review, rounds of editing, testing it out, trying it, showing my clients, asking for their perspective. But that was me picking up and not seeing it as a failure. If I saw it as a failure, I'd have been like, screw it. I'm a bad coach. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I would have probably taken like a break, thinking like, oh, frick, I can't do this. But instead I'm like, this is a lesson I'm learning. In fact, I saw it as a good thing for my business. I'm like, great, I'm getting such good market research. I'm going to pivot. Then a couple weeks later, I come up with my new guide. First of all, it's way prettier. I'm way more obsessed with it. I've put in just about the same money, but now I see, holy, the return on investment is huge.
Really?
Huge, way larger than I could have ever imagined. I have like dozens of people joining my Facebook group every day from that one specific guide that I've created. And that was me not seeing something as a failure. At first I did. I'm like, oh, $500 down the drain, never get it back. But really I saw it as a lesson. How can I make my next guide even better? How can I see this as like something that's good for me? And so I picked up, I had the goal in mind. That was my reroute. I got off at the wrong exit. But I didn't get off at the exit and like, oh, damn, I suck at this. I had no idea where I'm going and just go back home. No, I'm like, okay, got to put gas in the car again. And we're back on the journey, back on the way to the goal now. So yes, sometimes it's a reroute, but it's not the wrong way. You were supposed to get off there to go back this way. I likely needed to fail and needed that lesson to happen with the first guide that I put out so that I could better understand how to create a better one. And I could have seen it as a failure and then stopped and given up. But I took it as lessons, as valuable lessons, refueled the gas in the car and was like, okay, Google Maps, we're on it again. Please take me to my destination. And I'm back on my goal to like hitting 20K months with my business. So that's the idea of just not giving up, not seeing things as failures, actually seeing things as like, okay, this is happening for me for the right reason. What valuable lesson can I get from this? And then just pick right back up and get right back to it, right?
I think that mindset is extremely, extremely important. Because I know that in my own experiences, like because I really like internalized that failure and was super hard on myself, like I fell into a pit of depression for the entire month of December, like right after like I got my van and stuff like that. And I had so much fear and doubt. And I was like re-looking at my budget and like reconfiguring things like, can I afford this? Like, how much do I have to make? Like all these things. And I felt like stuck and I felt like so hopeless. But, you know, that I think was more of a failure than the actual actions that I took in the first place, because what happened was it prevented me from moving forward for a while, you know, like, but at the end of the day, it all worked out. Like that's why I think it's really important what you're saying. It's like being able to just accept what is, you know, like you don't have all the answers. Like we're all just figuring it out. There's like no defined path. There's no secret formula that we can all like follow, right? Like we're all doing the best that we can with the information that we have. And the more experiences we have, the more knowledge that we can implement to make better decisions and act accordingly in the way that we can actually manifest what we truly desire, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Think of a baby. Okay. When a baby is learning how to walk,
Mm-hmm.
when they fall, do they fall and like, oh, I don't know how to walk. Screw this. I'm not a good walker. I'm never going to try this again.
Mm-hmm.
No, they fall,
Mm-hmm.
they grab their little hands and feet, they get back up and they try again. And likely they fall again. And they get up and they try again, and they bash their head somewhere, but they still get up.
Yeah.
That's a baby.
Yeah.
Intuitively, they have that idea that it's not a failure, we're just learning.
Yeah.
But as we grow older, we start to attach these beliefs to falling down as failure. But the baby never gets up, falls a gajillion times before it learns how to walk. If we fall once, we think it's like, oh, the end of the world. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I picked the wrong thing in the first place. We doubt everything, doubt ourselves, doubt our knowledge, our worth, everything. We doubt it. Just think about the baby. The baby falls, gets back up, falls again, gets back up, falls again, gets back up. So every time I see myself as like a fall, I'm like, I'm just learning how to use my legs even more.
Yeah.
I fall, you get right back up. And sometimes if you fall, you need the time. You need time to just sit down and be like, okay, that was a painful fall. And that's okay too. But the failure is not falling. The failure is not believing that you can get back up. We can all get back up, even if you're down for 5-10 minutes, 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah.
You fall down, it's okay to fall. Whenever you can, you'll get back up. But the idea is when people fall, they think it's the end of it. I can't get back up.
Yeah.
Think of the damn baby. How many times does the baby fall and get back up before they could use their legs? Endless. Sometimes an entire year has to go by before they finally get up. And it's like, okay, this is the time I know how to walk. And they take those cute little 2 steps and they're right back down they go. But the trick is they keep getting up. So if you feel like you fall and you stay down, don't stay down. That's staying down is failing. Falling is not failing. Failing is giving up on yourself, not thinking you could get back up. And I used to do that too often. I used to think if I fall, there's no way of going back, but it's just a reroute. It's like Google Maps. It's like the baby. They get back up and they keep going as if it never happened. And I try and use that every day for myself when I feel like didn't do so well. I could have done better. It's like, no problem. Tomorrow's another day to get up and walk. And if I fall again, I've got 2 legs. Tomorrow's another day to get up and walk. So that kind of idea, that visual representation of the baby falling and getting back up, I use that as my internal motivation to know that if I fall, it's absolutely normal. I just get back up and keep going.
Yeah, I think I can hear some people perhaps thinking, well, I'm not a baby. I need to be able to like figure things out and stuff. But it's like we're all just babies in these growing flesh suits, right? Like we learn to walk, we learn to read, we learn to write, but there's so much more to learn and experience in life. So we're always in that infantile stage of experiencing something new, playing more complex and challenging games. But like the beauty of being human is even if you can't do something right now, you have the potential and capacity to stretch and grow into the human that can.
Yeah.
But it requires you first having the courage to follow that path, to walk on it, no matter what obstacles may come in your way. And then also having the courage or I don't know, did I say that already? Well, having the trust that, everything is all right. And I mean that literally, everything is all right. Everything is exactly as it should be. You will be able to make it through. You may not know how, you may not know when or why, but it will happen if that's truly what you desire and you dedicate your energy to it.
Yeah. And the only difference with us and that baby is that the baby hasn't heard those reoccurring thoughts that they can't do it or that they're not good enough. They don't go in with those beliefs. They're just like, oh, I fell, I gotta get back up. Let me hold something and lift myself back up.
Yeah.
But we've created this belief that we can't do it, or if we fall, that it's a failure. It's really just about the belief system that we talked about. Well, like, why do you think you can't do it? Why do you think that it's a failure? Or where did that belief come from? And so it's just this idea on repeat. And it makes me think of this brilliant story. It's actually a kid's book, and it's incredible. I want to share it with you. So there's these two kids that go out to play together. Okay. And I think they're 5 or 6 years old, like really, really young. Okay. And they're going out in the backyard to play. And as they're running, they're playing soccer, these two little kitties having the time of their life. There's a hole. And as the kid's running, one of the kids falls in the hole, goes down and starts screaming, help, help, help. So automatically the other kid, who is the friend there, is like, oh my God, I got to help my friend. So he looks around like, okay, how could I help my friend right now? And he grabs a bucket and he throws the bucket inside the water, and he tells his friend, just hold the bucket, okay? Then he grabs a string and he ties it around the bucket, and he goes, hold on to the bucket. I'm going to pull you up. So now one kid's down there holding onto the bucket, scared for his life. And the other kid's up there looking down at him, just being like, hold tight. I'm going to pull you. Okay. And he starts pulling the baby, starts bringing it. And then he brings him up, and they're both like in shock, like, oh my God, what just happened? Like, he just fell in this hole. I just brought this kid back up. So they run inside the house to tell the family, like, oh my God, this is what just happened. And then the adults are like, how did you do that? You pulled him out of there? You can't do that. You're a kid. How did you pull another kid out of the hole? You're weak. How did you do that? They almost couldn't believe that it was even possible. Wow. And after they realized, how did this happen? Is that he believed in himself. The one who pulled him out, nobody told him he couldn't do it. He believed that in that moment he could do it, and he got it done. Nobody else could believe. All of the adults were like, how did you do that? How did a 5-year-old pull out another 5-year-old? How did he even think about to use the bucket? And the main thing is that there was nobody there, no adults there to tell him that he couldn't do it. So he had no belief, no negative limiting belief to tell him that he couldn't do it. He believed in himself in that moment. He's like, this is the goal, and I believed that I could do it, and he did it. But none of the adults could believe it, because they were like, a kid? How could a kid do this? And the difference between the kid and the adult was that the adult had created all of this entire story, all of these limiting beliefs of why the kid couldn't do it.
What isn't possible.
Exactly. But the kid didn't even have these beliefs. The kid just did what he believed he could do. Wow. And so if we were the kid, if we shut everybody's external voice out, what are we capable of doing? It's whatever we believe we can do. Absolutely. If there was no adults to tell you you couldn't do it, what would you be capable of doing? It's like, wow, I could probably pull another baby out of the hole. And that's exactly what he ended up doing. All because there was no external voices to tell him that he couldn't do it. That was the only difference.
I think a really important thing to include in this is even if you personally have an internal voice that is doubtful and that thinks that things aren't possible for you, that's okay. The goal is to not have that voice. The goal is to not connect your being to it. The goal is to understand that there are other parts of you that have so much faith, parts of you that are immensely capable. And your job is to just connect to that, is to really trust and listen to that voice over all the others.
Yeah. Because the beautiful part is that's a choice.
Yeah.
It's accessible to all of us. It's accessible. They're all thoughts, and we get to choose what we believe.
Exactly.
All right, sorry guys, the last clip cut out because my computer died, but I think you guys basically got the gist of things. So we're going to wrap up this podcast. Is there any final things you want to mention, Gazi?
Only one thing, and it's that by hearing all of these stories, just know that if it was possible for me or for Kat or for anybody else, that it's also possible for you. There's no difference between me or the next person or the person who manifested their dream life. There's no difference. We're all working with the same energy levels. And if it's possible for us, it's possible for you. And it all starts with believing in yourself and having a clear goal of what we're working towards. So I just wanted to share that. And if anybody hears this and wants to chat about it or wants to hear more, find me on Instagram. My name is Authentic Gazel. That's where I am. I'm very accessible, easy to reach. I want to hear from your viewers. I want to hear their feedback. So I hope everybody's had a great time hearing this, and I hope they feel inspired to go out there and ask and receive what they're worthy of receiving.
Yes, I hope so too. I am definitely feeling inspired myself, and I will be implementing some of your tactics as well. Like we have mentioned multiple times in this podcast, it is about repetition.
Yeah,
You have
absolutely.
spent your life believing a certain thing about yourself and living a certain way just based on repeated thoughts and habits of behavior. But just know you always have the ability to choose to be and to do differently.
Yeah, love that, Kat. Thanks for bringing me on. It's fantastic. And I hope that we get to hang out in the van sometime soon in the near future.
Absolutely, girl. Come fly out to the West Coast.
Oh, I'm so ready.
So much for this. And thank you to everyone who's watched it. I hope that you got something out of it. Be sure to definitely check out Gazel, especially if you are a young adult trying to figure out what your passion is, what you want to do in life, and how to actually get there. That is her specialty. She is an incredible mentor and a genuinely caring human being, accessible to everyone who desires to reach out to her. So go check her out. I will leave her link and information down below in the description. And with that, I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Bye.